Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Deanna.
And we are the Maladroit Mamas.
Life for us is momming, home educating, and screwing up everything from Latin to day drinking, and that for us is a blessing and a curse.
So we want you to embrace the blurst life too. Deanna, what is the number one concern about home educating?
Well, I will tell you that when I first told my mother that we were going to home educate our daughter, her first question was, what about socialization? How is she going to be socialized?
The S word.
Yes, the S word. That was the first question that I got.
Yeah, so when I first started homeschooling, cheers.
Cheers. Do you want to explain it, or should I?
We don't like the term homeschooling. We prefer home educate. And we play a drinking game. Grab your favorite beverage and join in the game with us. Every time we accidentally say homeschooling instead of home educating, we take a drink. And let's try not to be drunk by the end of the show.
Let's try.
Okay, so when I was a brand new home educating parent, and I was at Walmart. I had probably only been in the school year for a few weeks. It was just a few weeks. And this very awkward cashier said to me, because it was the middle of the day, and he's like, "What? Shouldn't you guys be in school?" And I said, "Oh, well, I'm quoting, so this doesn't count.
Okay.
We homeschool." And he said, "Oh," and he said, "These kids that used to live down the street from me homeschooled, and they were really weird." And he said, "Shouldn't they be at school, like hanging out with other kids?" And I'm thinking in my head, so you have experience with one home educating family, and you jump to the conclusion that they're all weird. I mean, we are. Let's face it, we are. It's like a prerequisite. You have to be a weirdo if you're going to homeschool your kids. But another thing was, this guy was one of the most awkward people I had ever met in my life.
Did you ask him where he went to school?
No, I should have. But especially when I first started out, I was nervous and uncomfortable and really self-conscious about my decision, because I recognized that it's going against the majority, and that.
Well, it can be really intimidating, I think, especially when you don't know the background of the person asking, when that person might be a teacher or in the education system in some way, shape, or form. And, I think people feel that it is a legitimate question to ask. Like when someone is pregnant and, a random stranger walks up to you and says, "Oh, can I feel your belly?" And
sometimes they don't even ask.
Yeah, sometimes they don't ask. And they just think it's their right. And I think that a lot of times people think that when you do mention that you home educate, they just think it's a train they can jump on and just start grilling you and asking you these questions.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, okay, let's start out by defining our terms. So when someone asks about socialization, what do you think that they mean by that when they say, "What about socialization?" Like, what did your mom mean when she said that to you? What about socialization? What do you think that her definition of socialization is?
I don't even think she knows what she meant. But if I were to guess, I would imagine that she meant just having a friend group, or having, being able to participate in extracurricular activities or being with kids her own age, things like that. I don't necessarily think she particularly meant a classroom experience. I think she probably meant more, because my mom was more interested in just being popular. That's kind of my mom's thing. Like, if you weren't popular, then what was the point? Yeah. So I think that was more her concern. She didn't want a weirdo grandkid, because my daughter was her first grandchild for quite a while, and so I think she just didn't want a weirdo grandkid. And so this was definitely shaping up to be a weirdo grandkid, and so she really didn't like that idea. So at the time I just had one child, and so that was just, with one kid, I'm gonna home educate, and holy cow, I'm gonna chain her to her chair and not let her out of the house for 8 hours a day. I think that's what my mom probably thought. So
I would guess that's what most people mean when they're talking about socialization. When they ask that question, they assume that home educated kids are just staying in their house all day, and we don't see other people or do other activities or anything like that. So how should we define it then? I guess or what would be the proper definition? Or maybe it's not even the right question. Because maybe what they mean when they say, what about socialization, is like, well, what about, friend groups and sports and clubs and all of that stuff. Right. And sitting in a class with peers and kids their own age.
Right. Because I can remember that, and I shared the story earlier, I can remember after our first year of homeschooling, we were gearing up because every year we would reevaluate if we were going to do it again. And so first year was kindergarten, and that year she had been on the softball team with girls her own age, ranging like kindergarten through second grade, I think it was. So it was like the U8 team. And so it was kindergarten, first and second grade girls. And the major talk, like the only talk most of the time, was these girls spending the night with boys.
Oh.
And, they were mostly like the older brothers of their friends, in school. And it was really shocking to me, and at that age. And, my husband heard it as well. And so we started talking about whether we were going to do it for first grade and what we were going to do. I said, the socialization question obviously comes up again. And he says that, well, if socialization means that our daughter is going to be talking about sleepovers with 7, 8, 9-year-old boys, I don't want anything to do with it. So we said, okay, we're going to continue to home educate. So that kind of decided it for us for at least, another year. And, as we continued on, there were other things that made the decision, but socialization, that aspect actually made the decision for us.
I have to ask. So she wasn't allowed to have sleepovers with boys at 6 or 7. Did you let her when she was 16?
Let me think. No, we didn't.
So that didn't change the age or anything? Oh,
no,
okay,
it really didn't. Now, now she's like 24, and yeah, I think she does kind of have sleepovers with boys, but there's a whole group of them. Not really sure what she does, but no, I think she's okay. I mean, you have to you do have to let them go.
I'm really sorry if your mother just embarrassed you.
Yeah, she's fine. She's fine. She's an adult.
It just sounded weird having sleepovers with a lot of boys, and she's 24.
A lot of boys. Well, there's lots of girls there too. It's a whole group. They're on vacation right now, so that's why I said it.
Okay.
They're on vacation right now. A whole group of college friends. It's girls and boys. They're all together
right now. Okay.
Yes, they're on vacation right now. There's a whole group of them in a house on a lake. So
Thanks for clarifying.
Yes, clarify that. So she is allowed to now, but when she was 6, not so much. So that's the kind of socialization we didn't want. But I think defining the terms of socialization, there are 2 types of socialization in public school. There is that socialization where they are just sitting in the classroom and they're doing their work. And, they're not supposed to be talking.
I got
and
in
passing
trouble
notes.
all the time. I was that kid.
Yeah,
I got
was
in trouble
too.
all the time.
I learned
for
nothing in school.
And passing notes.
Yes.
And I've had teachers read notes out loud to the whole class because, I was that kid.
I was more interested in being popular than I was in learning. That kind of socialization can happen in a home education situation. They sit down, they do their work, and, they socialize with their teacher. They socialize with their mom, just like they would in a public school setting. But they actually get one-on-one time with mom, which they might not get in a school setting.
I highly doubt, though, that children scream at their teachers, their public school teachers, "You're ruining my life!"
That's true. That's true. That is true. But I will say that I think that kids do get to a point where they realize that being schooled at home is better than going to school. It does eventually sink in.
Well, that's good. All right, you and I were both public school kids.
I was for a time. I was Christian school and public school. I was both.
I was exclusively a public school kid. So I don't imagine it's much different today than it was when we were kids, as far as like the socialization aspect of a public school setting. Like I said, I was the kid who got in trouble all the time for talking and passing notes and things like that in class. Socialization in a public school setting will get you in a lot of trouble. And, we were able to play. I've heard, I can't say this from experience, but I have heard that it's even to the point in some schools where kids can't even converse during lunch because it gets too loud. Like they have lunch monitors who are like, no talking.
Wow.
And that sounds very oppressive to me.
Yeah. I haven't heard that. I don't really keep up with that kind of thing, so I don't know about that. But wow.
I don't know. Do I have any
sad.
public school friends watching this video right now who would like to chime in down in the comments?
Yeah, let us know if that happens to your kids.
You know that, does anyone have experience with that? Because I don't, but I've heard about that.
What are your and if you home educate your kids, what are your socialization stories? What answer do you give? If people say, "What about socialization?" Because everybody has answers.
One of the funny questions that I think it's a stupid question that has been asked, but how will they ever learn how to stand in line? How do they learn to stand in line if they're not in school all day? Well, I mean, I've taken my kids to Disney World, and let me tell you, I mean, not right now during COVID. I've heard that the waits are only like 5 minutes long, but take them to an amusement park. It doesn't have to be Disney. You don't have to like sell a kidney to take your kid to an amusement park. Like just go to, one of the less classy places. Like,
but you can,
like Six Flags or something.
But go to the grocery store. You can stand in line at the grocery store. You can stand in line at the post office.
But I'm telling you, those Disney lines are no joke.
Yeah,
you will get plenty of experience. Yeah, I mean, my kids at young ages were learning how to stand in 2-hour lines to get on a ride that lasted all of 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah,
that's a stupid question that people actually ask.
Yeah.
But what kind of things does your son do and your daughter? Well, I know she did dance.
She did. She did dance early, and that was kind of a. I mean, like for the socialization part, it did. I mean, like she did. She had her friends, and she never had a birthday party that we didn't have a ton of people here. Never
That's
once.
true. All of my kids have had big parties.
Yeah. I mean, until she got older and didn't want big parties and she just wanted sleepovers with a couple of friends.
Well, I cut my kids off at 10. Like, you get a birthday party until the age of 10 because I
Okay.
have 5. That's 50 birthday
that's
parties.
A lot
that's a lot of birthday parties. And they still get to do stuff for their birthdays.
Right.
But we don't. I'm not entertaining anybody anymore. At that point, they're old enough to entertain themselves and their friends. I will provide cake, food, whatever, but I'm going to go sit in my room and drink a glass of wine and do my puzzle or whatever.
I think her last big party was when she was 11, and then she sort of transitioned to, I just want to have, a couple of my friends, my closest friends over for sleepovers and stuff like that. Like that's when she sort of transitioned into that. And, my son, he's not really a big party person. Every once in a while he'll want to party. But sometimes he's just happy with the cake and that's it. He's not really I don't know. I have no idea. He's just like, I don't know. But they've never been lacking for having friends. So she did dance. She did play soccer.
She did,
she acted.
Yes, that's what I was trying to.
She did an acting group for quite some time. She did several, actually. She did 3 or 4. She did eventually at the community college. She did one for a couple of years. She played the violin, but that's kind of a solitary thing. That's not really a group thing.
Unless she's like in an orchestra or something.
Yeah, she really didn't. I mean, she played with other groups, but she didn't really like playing in an orchestra. She tried that a few times, but she liked playing recitals. She liked doing like solo work for other groups, but she wasn't really an orchestra person.
What kind of activities does your son do?
Well, he plays on the computer with your son a lot. But that I see that as a group activity.
Yeah.
Especially in this day and age with COVID and quarantine right now.
But that's what public school kids are doing too.
But that's what they're doing too.
And they play video games online with their friends.
Exactly.
My husband does that. He's a grown-ass man and he does that.
So I see that because they're talking, they're laughing, they're collaborating, they're doing things together, they're building and creating, and they're just as involved in each other's lives, I think, than probably I am. And they know more about each other's lives than I know about his life sometimes.
And when they're not playing video games, they're texting.
Constantly. Oh, my word. Like, he's constantly getting these little notifications. We hear the ding, 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 ding,
people would
ding.
joke about, like, girls being the only ones who do that, but,
no.
I mean...
These teenage boys.
Yeah,
my goodness.
my boy is just as bad as any girl out there.
Yes.
And so are his friends, so I know it's not unique to my son.
Yes, absolutely. So what do your kids do?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, your kids.
I have so many of them, so we've done a lot of different things. I mean, this was before we started home educating, but my oldest did play soccer for 2 seasons in a local, I might have mentioned this in the last podcast.
I think you did.
But yeah, that didn't really stick because
it was like dance for us.
Yeah. My 2 older girls have danced for a few years, ballet and like an acrobatic dance. And one of my girls, she still dances now, and actually my 4-year-old is starting dance this year.
Woo.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be the cutest thing ever. Yeah. Nothing is cuter than a little 4-year-old girl in a little ballet outfit. And I mean, even without being in a ballet class, like she just dances around the house and she's funny. She makes up songs to like whatever she's doing. Like she'll sing about what she's doing and make up songs, and she dances all the time. Anyway, so my girls have danced. We've done gymnastics. My son did a Ninja Star, which is kind of like American Ninja Warrior, whatever it's called. I've never watched the show. I think that's what it's called, right? American Ninja Warrior. My other son and my two older girls have done gymnastics. My oldest daughter wants to do basketball, but when basketball season came,
COVID came.
Yeah, COVID came along with it. So she hasn't been able to do that. And we've done piano, which again, that's not really a socialization thing, but we have a piano teacher who comes to our house and they have performed pieces.
Yeah.
They've done performances. And, we're involved in a homeschool community, so they are still in a classroom weekly with kids. It's structured similarly to a public school setting where they're with kids who are about the same age. And youth group, my older two have been involved in youth group since they were old enough until COVID hit. Yeah. Oh, and then Solomon was involved at our last church. He was involved in Royal Rangers, which is like the Christian Boy Scouts, if you don't know. Oh, and archery. My girls did archery. I forgot about that too. We've done so much stuff.
Oh, well, yeah. Keeper was involved in Awana, which was what our church did for a while. So
it's like another Christian Boy Scout.
Yeah, it's like your Christian. Yeah, he did that until he kind of aged out of it and was done with it. But so yeah, he did that for a while.
And my kids play with neighborhood kids, and in our last neighborhood and this neighborhood, they played with neighborhood kids. So it's not like we haven't been isolated, until everyone was isolated.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like in today's day and age in the home education community, you're more at a risk of doing too much than doing too little. Because there's so many opportunities and so many things, and your tendency is to say yes to all the things, and then your schedule fills up very quickly, and then mom gets burned out, especially if you have multiple kids that you're running around everywhere. Like this past school year was amazing for me because all of my kids were involved in gymnastics, and so I only had to go once a week. I take everybody once a week, and that was awesome. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I've had school years where I've had places to take my kids, 6 days out of the week, which is a lot.
It's a lot.
That's how my kids have made all of their friends, is through the different activities that we do, all the extracurriculars we do in our homeschool community. And there are so many co-ops out there. There are a lot of options for that out there too.
Yeah.
And now since we're in the age of social media and Facebook, there's so many Facebook pages that you could be a part of. And it's very easy to make connections now.
Yeah, and to find people in your area who are doing the same thing you're doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other thing about home-educated children is that they don't just associate with their one peer group.
Oh, I love that. That is like one of my favorite things about homeschooling, is that my kids play with a wide range of. I'm being told that we said homeschool. I didn't notice.
We said it. Okay.
Home educate.
Home educate. Yes.
Anyway.
Yes, they do. They don't think, if they're in, fourth grade, they don't think, I can only associate with fourth graders. I can't associate with a second grader, or I can't associate with, a third grader because I'm a fourth grader or whatever.
Yeah. So our boys and the group of kids that they play with online so Zachary's 12, and then Kiefer's 13, Solomon's 14, Josh is 15, and my nephew Ben is 17. Yes. So like this wide age range of kids, and I mean, a lot of that's online, yes, but they see each other in person and hang out too. But
they'll play with the girls sometimes too.
They do, yeah. Our girls, my girls and Carla's girls, like they all play together, and Josh's sister Emma, all of them play together, and it's awesome. Like I love that. They don't have that mindset of,
I can only play with my own, gender. I can only play with boys, and I can only play with kids my own age. I can only associate with, this one group of people, and they can carry on normal conversations with adults. Yeah. I think that's the other part of socialization that people just don't get is that home educated children are much more socialized
Oh, for
than,
sure. Yeah.
than public school kids.
My
because
9-year-old will talk to,
yeah.
she loves talking to adults. Like, she prefers to hang
so
out
did
with
my
adults.
daughter. She always preferred to hang out with adults, and
Now, I don't always prefer that my 9-year-old hang out with me. But sometimes I need that time.
Exactly. But yeah, I've noticed that, public school kids really tend to avoid adults, see adults as maybe, I don't know if enemy is the right word, but see adults as sort of
oppressive authority figures.
And homeschool kids kind of just see adults as, hey,
other people.
They're just around, and you just treat them like anybody else. And I see them, interact with younger, very young children in a positive way too.
Oh yeah.
They don't seem to discriminate against different age groups.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there are teenage boys and girls in our home education circles who, like I said, boys too, teenage boys who will cuddle my 4-year-old girl. Like, they will just, if she runs to them, they'll pick her up and they'll hold her and they'll play with her. Yeah. And I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing.
They want to interact with the younger kids, and they enjoy playing with them and having fun with them and being childlike with them.
Yeah, it's more interesting to play and hang out with a wide variety of people, not just everyone who's like you. In summary, home educated kids are at the risk of over socializing.
Yes, they can be.
And we actually have to be careful not to do too much.
Yes.
And we're clearly not antisocial.
No.
At all.
We're not. Yeah, I think you do have to be careful as the parent not to, over commit your kids to too many things, because you will burn out.
Oh, for sure.
Your kids aren't going to burn out because, they might just be doing one or two things, but if you have multiple kids, you're doing all the things. They're only doing one or two things, but everything you commit one or two kids to, you're doing all of those things. So I think that you need to be mindful of that. But the socialization argument just doesn't
have a leg to stand on.
No, not anymore. So, yeah.
So what about you guys? Have you ever had the socialization question for those of you who homeschool? We were supposed to talk about clever comebacks.
Yeah. I don't really have a clever comeback, and I don't really have one.
I've heard people talk about we socialize animals, not people.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that.
My kids won't do this, but I kept trying to encourage them. Yeah, maybe I need to offer to pay them. I'll give you $1 every time you say this to somebody. If someone asks them, shouldn't you be in school? And they say, oh, we homeschool. I want them to say, when people ask them, shouldn't you be in school? I want them to say, we're feral. Because I think that would be very funny. Anyway, so for those of you who do homeschool, do you guys have any comebacks to the socialization question? Any of you who are new to home education are just looking into it, do you have any other questions about socialization? Please let us know down in the comments, and we will be happy to get back to you on that.